Okay, JM on the fly. And today we're going to be tying my articulated craft fur fly. Pretty neat little guy here. Got a lot of action. It's about somewhere in the 3 to 3.5 inch range. Let me put this baby in the vise so you can check it out. Again, features, nice articulated tail, if you see that inside there. And I'm going to actually put this down. Let's get this zoomed in so we can see what the heck we're doing. Okay, let me put this baby in the vise and we'll get things together here. Okay, now I'll get a little light on the situation. You can see the tail, and that baby will wiggle and do the hoochie coochie and catch a lot of fish, and pretty much use this for anything. I mean, snook, smallmouth, any type of bass, striper, you name it. Trout works fine for anything. Anything that eats minnows. 3.5 inch, 3 inch, decent sized minnows. And the action that it has is unbelievable. And I'll show you. You can fish it deep. You can fish it shallow. It's completely up to you how you tie this. But that's pretty much the fly. Beautiful looking fly, and a lot of motion, a lot of action. Nothing moves in the water like craft fur. I mean, it's just unbelievable what this stuff looks like when it's in the water. Anyway, let's get started. Gonna start with a shank. So we're gonna take whatever. It doesn't matter how long the shanks are. Usually your shanks are double-eyed or double eye on both sides of them. Let me just show you that. So basically, here's a shank. This happens to be a Montana fly shank. And basically, that's your shank. It's got an eye on either end. And you cut it in the middle. You can use both ends. There you go. That's snipped in half. And then you want to trim that so you have about an eye space in here. Good place to tie on that other piece of wire. So you want to cut that down and trim that out with the dikes. Start, doesn't matter what thread we use. This is going to be the tail portion of the fly, the articulation part. We're going to just use 6/0 because that's what I have laying here for this portion. And we're going to use, we'll come in, doesn't matter what colors you use, it's going to be completely up to you on that. Going to go with some cream craft fur. Take a nice little snip off of this. Take the length, and if you've seen my videos before, I'm sure you know how to handle the craft fur. Keep this stuff. We can make a little brush out of that extra. I take this, I cut the bottom so we get a length. And I'm going to lay that in like this. Put that little shank in there, lay that in. And you could guide. Usually what I do is I have this spring here set for a length. And again, I do my filming on this camera. I have, on this vise. So I have things set up a little bit more over there for tying, but that's the idea. Pretty much get some craft fur on there. Snip that off. I'm going to lift this out, turn it upside down. I'm going to get another little batch of craft fur, and I want a pretty decent amount of craft fur on that part that moves, which is this tail portion. And the reason is that's what gives the action. That's where all the fluttering and the main part of the action is. So I really want to highlight that. Again, I trim for length, and I just layer in there. I want about the same length as that. That looks pretty good. Tie that in like that. Come right up and get that baby tied in nicely. We're going to cut that off. Okay, now we're going to tie down. We're going to grab a bead, and this happens to be a 3/16 bead. Pretty big bead. Put the big side on first. Come right up over, and we're going to tie that in right there. In this case here, our shank's perfect size. We don't need to add anything to it. And with your thread on the inside, again a quick whip finish, and we'll be ready for the Bondix. And we'll knock his tail out really quick. Okay, that's it. Gonna grab the Bondix. If you've seen me, I'm a big Bondix fan. This stuff is absolutely incredible. Best thing that happened to fly tying in years. Absolutely the best thing. This stuff is so neat. And that's it. We're gonna spin that, Bondix it up. We're gonna hit it with the light, and we're gonna let that baby cure just like that. And we're going to finish this tail off by folding it back over itself. And that's it. That's hard as a rock right now. Take your extra craft fur, put it right over the top like that. Okay, and I like to do this in my hands. I don't really like to do this on the vise. So if you can see, we have a little bit uncovered there. I just simply turn this and just keep turning it so that everything's covered. We don't see that bead. Take your Bondix. Again, we're just running that around the edge just like that. Smear it on. Don't have to be too fancy here. This all gets covered later on. Get a nice little layer on there. Just like that. Again, hit it with the light. And cure that. Don't have to get too fancy with this. This is all hidden in the fly. Want to make sure that there's nothing, no Bondix in your eye opening. And you see there's a few hairs. We'll take care of them in a second. That's not a problem either. Okay, that's pretty much cured. We're going to pick off the loose fibers, and we got ourselves a little, I don't know, we call it a bucktail or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to take the cauterizer, just put it in the hole there and burn off any loose hairs so that hole's completely open, and you're good to go. Set that tail to the side. Now we're going to start on the actual body part. So we're going to use a 1/0 Gamakatsu SC15 wide gap hook. Beautiful wide gap hook. And we're going to put a little cone on there. See that? Little cone. It's actually a size large cone. And we're going to start with mono. And I also need my other mono. Let me just grab that. That's got to be over here. Where? It's always something. It's always something. You always have something around. Okay, so now I'm going to mono. Okay, this is my favorite Danville fine mono. And I like this because I use these a lot for saltwater. So again, I'm tying everything in stainless steel. Even if I'm using them for smallies, they're still tied in stainless steel. You tie so many flies, you want to be able to just grab them when you go to saltwater and freshwater. I don't need a whole batch tied for freshwater and then tie another whole batch for saltwater, so I just tie everything on a stainless steel hook. And I need my, I'll be right back in a second. I just need to grab this line. Okay, there it is. So basically what it is a stiff mono. It's a stiff mono line. And 40-pound test, something like that. 30, 40-pound fluorocarbon, anything like that will work fine. We're going to tie that into the one side of the hook, shank. I'm going to feed on my tail, just like that. Going to give ourselves a nice little loop in the back. And I'm going to come in and measure that and cut that off. And now I will measure that and I will tie that in to this side. Okay, so now we got our tail in position, and you see it's nice and loose. We want it completely loose. We want it to be able to do all kinds of whatever it wants to do, flop around there like a madman and attract all kinds of fish. So we want a nice loose wrap there. Now we need to keep this stuff on. I like to just take the Bondic, put it in the back here, and I'm going to make a nice little bead right here, just like that. And again, the only trick that we have is getting this baby cured on there. So we're coming around, we're going to cure this glue real quick in the back end, and that secures that on the shank. There's no hook on here, so there's really never any stupid pull on that. But it is a lot easier if you could put this guy into some type of holder. Okay, so there you got a little spring deal there. Put that guy in the holder. It helps hold everything in position so we could do what we need to do. Let me try and get this a little bit more centered and a little bit more light on it. Okay, I can come up a hair more. There we go. How's that? That looks a little better. Get a little bit more light on the situation. There we go. Okay, now, next step, we're going to take our mono and we're going to pull this head back, tie up to the eye. Basically repeating the steps. Now we're going to put our craft fur on. So now we need our cream. We'll start with the cream. I flipped it upside down. So we will be seeing cream next. Going to take a nice little chunk of cream. Really good clump of it. Again, pulling out the short fibers. Setting them to the side. We can make a brush out of them later. I got a little bit of the backing on there. We'll get rid of that. Okay. And again, just pulling out the fibers, setting them to the side, getting the piece to length, finding a length. Okay, now we established the length. And I want that to fall somewhere in the halfway point or a hair further than the actual tail. So I got that marked as a measurement. I'm going to flip it and we're going to put that right on just like this, and that stays to the bottom just like that. We're going to tie this in nicely. Make sure we lift up and we work our way to the front so we're right behind that head. See what that looks like. So our eyes there. And we reach in with our scissors. We can cut this excess off. Get rid of that. Beautiful. Okay, that's our first color. Next color we're going to use is going to be a little bit of a tan. Come in, let's get that tan color. And I got to open up another pack here. Happen to be ready this time. Unbelievable. Okay. Tan craft fur. I'm going to reach in and cut ourselves a nice little chunk of that. Usually one snip with the scissors is good. That gives you plenty to work with. And again, pulling out the long fibers, saving the short ones. We'll make a brush out of that later. And the same thing. We handle this the same every time. Cut the length. So we have a length. This is getting tied on the side. So we will match very close, or maybe a hair shy of the white, lengthwise. And there we go. Okay, so we have one to that side, just like that. Okay, we're going to cut off the excess. We're going to flip it to this side. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to reach in, grab ourselves a little bit of tan craft fur. Another little cut. Same deal. Same deal, pulling out the small fibers. cut the length, and we'll put that little batch on this side with the same lengths. Okay, so there we go. Do they match exactly? Hell no. Doesn't matter. Don't mean a damn thing, to tell you the truth. Got a little bit more hair on this side than this side, big deal. Okay, now we're going to go right to the top. Right to the top, and we're going to go with a brown right down over the back, a light brown. Beautiful light brown color. So let me just get in here and snip some of that out. I'm snipping this brown right off the mat. Come on. There we go. Get a nice little chunk of brown. Ended up with an end piece there, so it ended up being a little harder than I thought. And again, pull out the excess short stuff. Usually all comes out in one whack too. It's pretty simple. And again, measure for length, snip off, so we end up with a length, and we're going to tie that in. This one here we're tying a little bit longer than the rest because that's the back. Got to go right down over the back. You see that's just a little longer than the white, and we're just going to come in and we'll just tie that down right behind the shank. Work our way back. Same thing. We're snipping this out. Okay, just like that. Very simple. We can lift up on this, and we can make sure that we can see our eye, which is very important. And we have it there. I can see it. Everything looks pretty good. Get rid of all the loose stuff. Let's work this right to here. Next step we're going to do, we're going to flip this baby upside down for a second. And I am going to fill that little cone in. And I'm going to fill that cone in with a Bondix. So I'm just going to reach in there and fill that little cup up with Bondix. Just like that. Beautiful. Now I'm going to cure that, but before I cure it, I'm going to make sure that that baby is sitting dead center. So there, I can just turn my cone just like that and then hit it with the light. And that just centers that cone on there. You see how nice and centered that is? And that just stays right there. So that cone is in the perfect position. Beautiful, just like that. Okay, now we can go back to our regular tying position. Put this in like that. And let's get this baby in the spring because we want that held away. Keep all our fur back. And next, okay, so now the neat part about this fly is we could now add weight in here. We have enough room for anything we want in here. This is all free, so whatever you put in here could be anything. If you want this baby to sink, put a split shot on it. This is an opened up split shot. If you put a split shot on it and you want it to ride hook down, okay, so if you're fishing current, things like that, you just simply put that split shot on there, crimp it on, and you see that, and then you would tie and Bondix that split shot. But again, if you want to ride hook down, make sure the heaviest part of the split shot is down. Okay, unless you tie it upside down, and you could put the split shot the other way. It's completely up to you. I'm not going to do that. I'd rather add weight to my line if I want this baby to sink. And I am tying these particularly for snook right now. So I'm going to go with, you could put a rattle in there. You could do pretty much whatever you want because you have room. I'm going to go with a little deer hair. And I really like this. Take the red deer hair, and we're just going to snip a little cluster out. And anything you see, anything that shows through this, and I want this to float. See, the snook and tarpon and fish of that nature, you know, their eyes are on the top of their head, so their bait is always at the surface. So this gives some buoyancy to this fly and helps it to stay up near the surface. And you basically just do a nice little wrap, red belly hair. We're just going to spin that, flare it, whatever you want to do. And we're going to come right behind that. I'm going to whip finish right behind the cone, just like that. And I'll do a double one just because. Okay, so we got a nice little double whip finish. Anything that you see now in between these fibers opening up is going to be red, so it's going to imitate the gills. So red's actually a really good color for this. And that craft fur in the water is going to open and close, so it will happen. I am trimming this completely down, flush to where the cone, or the fattest end of the cone is. Right around, you can see I'm not being particular, fancy, nothing. And then we're just going to trim out the butts here. I don't want anything to interfere with or be in the area that hinge of the extended tail, so we're going to just trim that back. And you can see that's it. Just pretty much put a little deer hair, I guess we'll call it gills, you know, in there. That's going to help for the buoyancy of the flies, like I had said. And whatever, just a neat deal. Okay, we're going to get everything held in place, and now we could take our dark brown and the white and the tan and fold everything back around just like that. We turn our vise upside down because we can run our scissors through and divide our craft fur to each side of the hook just like that. Okay, and then we come back up to the top and pull out a couple small hairs, and basically we're just constantly petting this thing back just like that. Okay, then rather than getting crazy, we're just going to hold it like that, and we're going to go through and we're going to hit this with the Bondix. So I'm going to come on a start on that side. I got all kinds of loose hairs here on this stuff. Horrible. What a mess. I got to get rid of this. Let me get a paper towel here. See, it sticks fast to the everything. So there you go. Keep a paper towel handy at your desk. Get rid of that garbage. Okay, again, only takes a second to come right back in and hold that in place. Right where you want it. So boom, there you go. Everything's covered. I don't care if we see a little bit of red. That's not a bad thing, you know. That's perfectly fine. You can see a little bit of red, but you basically want everything flat to the surface here. So there you go. That's pretty good. I'm liking that. And like I said, you don't need to take a ton of time on this stuff. You want it to do it right, but you really, if you're fishing these things, man, I mean, one schnook and this, all your artistry goes right out the window, man. These things, they start shredding these things, and I think the most I got out of one is like 30 schnook, which is pretty damn good for the way that they hit. So you end up with whatever. If you got 30 schnook off of one of these, you'll see you'll have a hook left. I mean, the craft fur will be gone. I mean, they just demolish this stuff. And schnook have ultra sandpaper body. So we're basically just dousing a thin coat of the Bondix on this. You're going to hit it with the light. Hit it with the light real quick, and you could pretty much take your fingers off of everything and just hit it and cure it and get everything good to go. Don't worry about a couple stragglers there. You see the loose hairs, stragglers? As soon as this is hard, you'll be able to pick them off right away. Just hit them all with the light and get all that stuff hard. Show you how easy that is. Okay, so you see the couple little hairs that are sticking there? They pull right off. And especially now that it's hard and cured, they pull off no problem at all. Okay, so here we go. Same deal. Looking like a beautiful little minnow. You can see how nice that is. We're going to come in the bottom here and make sure that's all swiped out and everything's looking pretty good. That way, if you have anything, you could fix it right now. I have a little bump right here, which I could just come in and snip out. We'll get rid of that. Beautiful. Just like that. Okay, now we're ready to pop a couple eyes on here. Let me do that next. I'm going to take a little pin. And I got 5mm eyes. That's what I'm using for this. 5mm eyes, whatever your preference is. Do what you want. Everything else from here on out is pretty much cosmetic. You can fish this thing just like this. You don't need to do that. I like to do it because it actually helps me create a fat head, which is pretty much what I'm trying to imitate. Kind of like little fat head minnows. So once I add the Bondic to this, over top of these eyes, okay, so I'm coming in and we're going to go right around these eyes, the whole way around. Just come up over the top, right around this eye, right around it. Just like that, come right down to the bottom, come around the rest of the way of the eye, and now we start to comb the fibers. Get that always something. Okay, now we're just going to comb the Bondic. See how I'm just combing it to the front? Take it from the back the whole way to the front. And you can see that how we're just kind of creating that. See how nice this Bondic is to use? Just unbelievable how awesome this stuff is. Okay. See that? Look how neat that fly is. And that took about no time at all. Okay, and it has such a beautiful head. We're just going to hit it with the light as we spin it. And that baby's ready to fish. I mean, like stupidity ready to fish. And it's ready to rip them snook right out of there. And that's pretty much what these babies are going down to Florida to do. Excellent, excellent fly. Excellent pattern. The movement that you get between the craft fur and the articulation that's built in. The fly is just unbelievable, the damage that it does. The floating that it has, that hardens. I got a little bump there. You just take a scissors and cut that off. We don't even worry about nothing. I mean, this stuff is so simple. We got this down to a science now. Open it up a hair for some gap. Hit it again with the light so it cures really good. And that is the JM. Pop that free and you can see. Look at the articulation of that thing. That thing just move all over the place. Got the freedom to do whatever it wants. JM Articulated Craft Fur Fly. One of my favorites. Absolutely unbelievable the motion that this has in the water. You see this thing swim? You'll want to eat it yourself. JM on the fly. And I am out of here.